fuck it, I can do this, right? Okay. Not sure why the mouse. Oh, there we go. Huh?
The control C, because you couldn't type in the CMD window.
Yeah, no. What actually happened is you double. You had to capture the mouse in the command window. You have to do something to do it, and so it happens accidentally. That's what's actually happening. You can type Control C to stop it.
Oh,
but
I just opened up another command prompt. I was like, all right,
yeah.
I was doing that too.
But oftentimes in class, I'm stressed out and a couple things. That's why mouse is usually helpful. But anyway, I had a student ask me about this. It's pretty simple. If you did np install to install the things, because remember, I give you the project without the modules installed. It installs, it takes forever, yay. But then you go to do ng serve, and it won't open, or it says, I don't know what that command is. That means you forgot to install Angular. Yes.
So is it like internet connection based that takes forever? Because whenever I did the install, it took like 5 to 10 seconds and it was done.
So it's all relative to your internet connection. So, and speed relative of your computer. For instance, at home, when I'm on my sofa, as an example, I have good Wi-Fi connection. It goes really fast. In my office, I'm actually behind like a closed door, very far away from the Wi-Fi center, so it's slow.
You don't have your hardwire?
Huh?
You don't have your like hardwire in?
At home?
Oh no, I think you said in your office.
No, my office at home.
Oh.
In the office here, I just use Wi-Fi because it's just easier.
Really?
Yeah, I'd have to have an adapter.
Yeah.
This is literally the computer. So I'd have to have an adapter for what, so it's just easier not to. But what I was going to say is that, so yeah, it's very, very relative to internet speed. But even with like dial-up, like, that would take forever, but it's not that bad. These things it's downloading a lot of things individually, but it's not that terrible. Actually, dial-up would be really bad. I'm sorry. That one's probably a bad excuse. All right, so let's look around a little bit. I'm going to use some commands you might not be familiar with. If I type Explorer dot in Windows, I actually want to keep it running, so I'm going to remove the O because I don't really want it to open up. And then you see I have a copy of student app and student app 1. These are actually just the first one and then the second one. Yes. So I make copies of them to send them to you. Ta-da! So that's all that is. So I'm going to open up the source module again. Yay! And then I got to remember what we did. So we obviously have the list. I cleaned up the CSS so it just looks better. Yes, that's what I did. And you see you have the detail. I believe we fixed it. So if somebody says you suck, right, or something that's not a valid student, like these are all 5-digit. What if I give you a 3-digit one or 2-digit one? It's not valid, so bink, it goes here. Yay! We did the error correcting for that. And I believe we were on the road, but not quite there yet, to doing these add student component. That's where I think we're going to look. We created the add student, I believe we created the add student form. Yay. Oops. Yay. Not very exciting, right? Then we have an add student, start over, blah, blah, blah. All right. The list of students should be one of these other links, but I was playing around. Right? I actually renamed the CSS fields from main to BTN just to make it easier, because that's what the CSS thing was. I kept copying it in the wrong place, and I eventually got it to work. So yay! I just put it all in global. There's no reason not to have everything in global. And that should fix that, and sure does. Ta-da! Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get the student to work. the add student, and we're going to do edit student. A couple quick points about this is going to go really fast because there's not really that much to it, honestly. We have to add the forms module so that we have forms things that we can do with the actual form. I know that might sound stupid. We have to add the forms module so we can do forms things with the form, right? So we can tie Angular to the form. Outside of that, it's all just tying it to the form, which is pretty simple. When we get to the validation part, that's when all hell breaks loose. Okay, so that's when things get kind of crazy, but not right now. In fact, I plan to spend at least one day next week just doing the validation part. Right. So today we're going to do that, and then we're going to wrap up with some fancy pipe work, and then we're going to do a delete, so that when we talk about the advanced stuff, we need to talk about delete as well. All right, so let's get this party started. So we go into our add student component, and we see we have nothing. Yay! Right? We don't actually have anything, right? And why is that? Because we don't actually have anything. We do have the add student route. We have all that set up, but it doesn't actually do anything. Okay, what is this? Sorry, I do this scripty thing, but unfortunately, we've already done most of this. Boom. Yes, the add is not working. That's one of the things we're going to do. Oh, yeah. So we're going to start off because we're going to do edit today. We're going to do edit today, so I'm going to do this real quick so I don't have to do it later. I'm going to go, excuse me, ng generate component edit student. I want to generate that component just so we have it generated, because that otherwise, once I do this, I can just run ng-serve and just ta-da, and just keep ng-serve running. We don't actually have to do anything. Okay, so now we already have the get form pretty much working the way you'd expect to work. There's nothing really exciting about the form. But we don't actually have, why am I doing the student edit first? Hold on a second. Something's out of order. Yep, something's out of order. All right. So not sure what they're trying to do here. I mean, I think I know. All right, so that's stupid. We're not going to do that. I apologize. I guess I did it an old way, right? And so we're going to just change the way we do this. So the add student component works on that. Works on the concept of that endpoint that looks like, oh, excuse me, host mapping, right? This guy, right? Where we send a student, and it has to be a valid student. And then it takes the student and adds the student if it doesn't already exist, right? It's all going to be based on that endpoint. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to actually talk to an endpoint. What do we need to do? We need to go back to our service and add an endpoint. Now, this is the part that's going to seem a little crazy, but it is pretty simple. Remember our student class? It's a student. We're just going to send it to the URL. And how do we do that? I'm going to make very sure you're using post. It's going to return a student. Okay. Remember when we add a student, it returns the student that we added. And we're going to send this dot students URL. And what are we going to send along with it? The student that we passed in the, oh, this guy.
Student in the angle brackets need to be on the right as well as all the other ones.
Why? This?
Yeah.
Why does this need to be in a bracket?
Or like the array.
Okay, so you remember what the angle brackets are, right? They are type, sort of they're inserting the type.
Oh, okay.
So what we're saying is post without the student can return an object. But now we're making it return an object, making it return a student.
Gotcha.
Now, the good news is we never actually use a student, so we don't really care. But it is observable, so when you do actually make changes, the form would automatically update if you remained on that page. So it is good to return it, but it's not necessary. Okay, so we're not actually going to use it. But this is just taking the return type and forcing it to be, I'm expecting a student here.
Okay.
This is actually just specifying the type. What thing are we, what parameters coming in? Well, better be a student. Okay. Now we can do, what I did in the past was I actually did both of these. But unfortunately, due to time, we can't. We have a choice with forms. We call it template driven or reactive. We'll focus on template driven, but I'll briefly discuss the difference. Given that we worked with objects so far, you know, template driven is really what we've been doing. And so it's just going to make the most amount of sense. It's really what we've already been doing data. It's also simpler. It's my primary reason for using it and not both. Template driven forms start with a template and use data binding in the way we've already done it. So we're going to essentially tie the data object to the form and then manipulate the form that way. It's template first, which means that we focus on HTML that's in the document. That's what we mean by template. It allows you to drive everything via the template. So it's sort of all there. Since it's more declarative and simpler, since it follows what we're doing everywhere else, it just requires less code generally in our components, which is great. Less code in our components. I don't think anybody would argue with that. Reactive forms had a hyper coupling between the component and the view, so it's more reactive, but it's fundamentally focused on dealing with the data as it's happening. Most of us are not going to have really, really dynamic data. You're going to have a form, and you're just going to take the form and take the input and use it somewhere on your website. Most of us are not going to have really, really complicated things where you click this and this whole thing changes the view and all this. We don't really need that. Not that we couldn't do all of that with a template-driven form, but everything is defined and operated on the component, and then template just drives that results. You have more control over the view and when changes are actually propagated to view. So with the template driven view, anytime there's a change in anything, whether it's the server driven change or user driven change, since it's template driven, the template's going to automatically view it as soon as it sees the change. With the reactive form, you can choose when you want the user to change the view or not change a view. However, we don't have time for everything. So what do? Well, what we're going to do essentially is we're going to stick with template driven forms. It's much simpler anyway. And so on your homework and your project and all those things, you see template driven forms only, blah, 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 blah. So use that one. But like I said, it's a lot easier. So we're going to go back to app module. Really, it's that kind of day. All right. And then this is driving me nuts. So I almost want to grab the mouse from there, but that dude comes in with his thing. You know, he doesn't even teach a class, right? I checked. He doesn't even teach a class right after. I mean, I know I asked him, but I did double check with him. So we went the forms module, and we have to import it here. And now we can work with what's called the ng model. That's it. Remember I keep talking about dependency injection? You know, these are the imports that we need. We need the browser module. We need the routing module. You want to do the router link. You want to do those things. You want to deal with activated routes. You want to deal with that. You need that. To deal with the HTTP request to the server, you need the HTTP client module. Now we're going to interact with forms. We need the forms module. We only need to import the things we are actually going to interact with directly. Otherwise, the system will handle it on its own by default. So we just don't have to do anything. So that's what dependency injection is. We need when we need it, we import it. When we don't, we don't. All right. And I need to start saving these things. It's one of those days, right? I'm actually going around and what you call it, save, 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 because it is what we got to do. Now, remember, template driven form means we're going to take the form in the HTML file. Before we can do that, though, this is going to sound really stupid, but before we can do that functionally, we actually have to add the things to the component. Otherwise, the thing will just constantly not compile, and we won't be able to see if there's actually an error at any point. That is one of the things I really urge you to do with Angular is make sure you're working from a place where everything is working, right? So you notice every now and again, I pop back in here and just make sure it's compiled successfully. If I type something wrong, like in the student service, it's not going to compile. And then that's where the problem is, because that's the last thing I fixed, right? That is hugely important here. All right, so now we got to go ahead and screw around. First thing we're going to do is we need a student. We're going to model a student. And to save all of us from sorry, I sneezed so much the other day. I sneezed so much the other day, I hurt my chest. That's all this hurts. Falling apart, man. Not dying today, is what I tell my kid. You're not getting my video games today, Mom. I don't say that, but okay. Now, obviously, when we add a student, we have a blank student, right? But what we're going to do just to finally get a form is we're going to actually have a student, and we're going to let the user add things into the student object. And then when we're ready to submit, we're going to submit it to the website or to the other server. So we need a student form. We also need to add these to a constructor. We have the title service as well. So some more dependency injection. We need the student. This is not going to help me out because I didn't import it yet. Sorry, my nose. I have allergies. I am not sick. I better not be sick. I got way too much to do. All right. So now we imported a student service. Is there anything else we need? Oh, yes. Because we might deal with errors or problems, we want the router, right? We're going to need the router. Do we need to activate a router? No, we're not trying to get things from the URL, so we don't need to activate a route, but we do need a router because if we have an error for which we can't deal with, we got to go to the other place, right? No, we can deal with almost everything. So that's not really the case. But our reason for using a router is suppose everything is okay. We're going to go back to the whatever page. When we have options to do so as well, I typically just go back to the main list once I add an item. But you could. Why aren't you automatically doing the rest of it? Oh, you suck. You're gonna make me type it, aren't you? So what I have here is the edit version, unfortunately. And so since I have the edit version, I have to remove the stuff that isn't important for the, what you call it? Boom. Boom. Okay, we have router, so we need a router as well. I have great news, by the way. When we actually go do the, we go to do edit, we're just going to copy and paste. 90% of it is copy and paste, right? We need the get the student ID or we need to get the student ID from the edit, from the detail page, you know, when we get the student ID from the URL. We're going to use that to go get it. We're going to tie the form to it. All this stuff is the same. We just have a slightly different service endpoint, and so forth. So it's actually pretty simple. So that'll go very, very quickly. It'll probably go less quickly because I didn't bring a mouse today. But okay. We're gonna add one little thing because it's ugly. It's harder to do without it. And you go, wait, what? Error issue. We'll need to deal with. Okay. Now, if we have an error in any other field, that's a validation problem. Yes? Literally a validation problem. Yes? And we also have validation errors that we can deal with. But if you have a found, that means the SID is there. It can't be there. So they're going to need to change the SID. We're going to be able to deal with that from even this early point because it's a logic issue, not a validation issue. So we need that. And okay. All right, I'm going to start with the on submit, but I'm going to leave it. Boom, boom, boom. I'll leave it blank. We don't need to do it right now, but we're going to have an on submit form that's going to happen when the user clicks submit, right? It's not by default. It is not, just so we're aware, I want to be very, I can't move the mouse, but it's not automatic like ng on init. It's not automatic. You have to actually tie it to the form. If it's not tied to the form, it will literally just not work. Okay, including your validation services. So there's a lot of things you have to do to make this work. The good news is it's actually pretty simple. So let's go ahead and play with our component. Oh, come on, Ruth. All right, now here's where I didn't write it down. And my, let's call it's going to become very important here. Okay, I'm sorry, this is going to be a little awkward. So we no longer need name. We're going to keep it, but we no longer need it. And I'll explain why in a minute. We're actually going to use something that looks like this. Okay. I know you're like, wait, that's it? Yep, that is it. This one's going to be student.name. And major. Come on. Come on, man. I hate this mouse. That's why I wish I had a mouse. And I'm literally copy and pasting it, so don't overthink it. Yay! Yeah, so remember I told you that we have to change this action and all that stuff. We have to tie it to this. We get rid of all this crap. I would like to copy and paste you, but apparently I have fat fingers today. Some of you have fat fingers too, right? It's not just me. Do y'all know what fat fingers are?
Yeah.
When I refer to fat fingers, I mean I'm hitting the wrong key. I'm just putting the key in the wrong place. My fingers are not actually fat. Your fingers are not actually fat. Not for most keyboards. It's just a matter of I'd rather blame it on my fat hands than the fact that I hit the wrong key. Come on, that's funny right there, man. Come on, you're killing me, dude. Huh?
That's an actual term. When you play video games.
Oh, no, anything revolving a button, yeah. But that's where I came from. We've been using it in IT world for 100 years.
Nah, video games.
Oh, it's all video games for you. Nah, video games, man. What the hell are you talking about? All right. So we got the form tied to the thing. We have the submit. We did actually not a whole lot, as you can see. All we really did was we tied an ng model to a student. That's it. So they have the student SID, we have the name, we have the major, we have the GPA. Those are all elements of a student. Which student? This guy. Ta-da! Now you're gonna love this, right? So we're not gonna actually do anything. I'm gonna do console.log, and I'm just gonna stick student in there. It's not gonna work, is it? Okay. Ding, ding, ding. All right, let's see if it compiles. Should compile. Okay. Simple things like moving the mouse. All right. So now let's put an ID in there. How about all fours? We'll go with Michael or Ruth, and then we'll go with computer science, and we'll go with a 3.0. I'll click add student, and we don't see anything. Oh no! Remember, you need to open developer tools. Every major app has one. So if you're a Navigate Mozilla, Firefox, or Safari, they have one, but their how to get to it may vary. Okay. Although Safari is basically Google Chrome. Where's my console? Oh, I wasn't running it at the time. So let's go click add student. Ooh, we got something weird happening here. Nope. And you're like, wait, what? All right. Something weird is happening. All I'm doing is actually should be printing it out to the console. There's really nothing. We didn't even do the SID is false yet. What am I missing here? Gotta be something stupid. Oh, yeah, can't be that dumb, right? I will be so angry. So I changed the imports and what's called. So we're just gonna pop it and restart it. I changed the imports in the app module, and so I'm gonna restart it because that will reload them at worst. Because I've done this before, although not quite this slow because I usually have a mouse. Okay, something is missing. Something minor, but unfortunately, something minor is all that it takes. Adds to component. What am I missing here? I'm definitely missing something. Private route, private title service, private student service, student service, students. There's no form service that comes in? Nope. Well, we have the imports, so what are we missing? I'm having one of those days, buddy. All right. You know what we can do? Oh, wait. What's not saved? Can't be that dumb. Can't be. If something wasn't saved, it could be, but before I go do something crazy, let's actually check it. 23, it doesn't matter. Yep, there it goes. Something wasn't saved. The literal problem was whatever wasn't saved wasn't saved. So try to make sure you're saving things before what you call it. But anyway, we see the student ID. If you actually click on it, It's a student object, so it actually writes it all out. So great. So all we have to do is call the student service and look for errors. If we have an error, what do? Do something about the error. We only have one error that we can actually deal with. One. Okay. And if that error occurs, we're going to actually clean out the SID box, leave everything else the same. Ideally, right? I mean, that's what you guys want to do. You could clear everything. You can essentially reset, or you can just do one thing at a time or whatever you want to do. But in our case, we're going to actually show an error. We're going to say, hey, this SID already exists. You can't do this, right? So we need an ng if for that. And that's going to be in our component. And this is our purpose for using the S already exists. So we go up here. Oops. We have to put this in a something equals I cannot remember the variable. Good news. Very good news here. When you use a Boolean, it's either true or false. So musical exclusion does not, I don't need to do an else. I can just do another ng block, right? Pretty simple. So I can just do this. And just want to change this to red. There are better ways to do this. This is the way I'm doing it right now. Sorry, guys. Right? There are much better ways to do that, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Okay. And just going to change this to SID already exists. So that's all we did. Is we're actually just going to take it so the ng already exists. We can do it, right? Now, what if I actually wanted to put an error message in there rather than actually do this? What if I wanted to leave SID alone and wanted to put an error message in there? I can do something like this. Span if asterisk again, SID already exists, and then say SID already exists. Please select, or please use, enter another one. Right? We can do whatever we wanted. Ideally, too, I don't even write this in its own whatchamacallit, right? I don't need to. I don't need this ngif to be here. I could simply have just put this. Hopefully, you can see that. I could have just put copying. It's going to be a pain in the ass, but I'll still do it anyway because it's easier. Simpler just to do this. So I already had the div there. Changing the style. Right? I can do it however I want. When we get back to validation, we're going to have a lot more errors, a lot more ngifs type things to deal with. It's very important that you make sure that you deal with mutual exclusivity, so you don't get weird things showing up twice or those type of things. But for now, this should be enough to get this working. All right, so student component, we're going to get the student component to actually work. We need to well, you know what? Let's leave that. This dot student service dot add student, and we're going to add this student, and then we do the same subscribe BS. Subscribe. And big, I'm going to actually hit enter because I want to actually have multiple things. The data So we're just going to log the data. I'm missing something. I am. I know what I'm missing. This D console.log, and then we're going to go ahead and enter the data. Right? It should be the exact same as the student. If it's not the student, then there exists to be a problem somewhere. Something didn't transfer, which is why you do this. But this is assuming everything went according to plan, right? So everything went according to plan. So what does that mean? Bug out. It worked. So this dot router, navigate, and you can navigate by URL. You can navigate whatever you want to do. I think I use URL in this case, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go back to the student list, right? Everything works. I go to the student list, right? What if everything doesn't work? There's only one, excuse me. Remember I said there's only one error we're going to deal with. Yes? All other errors we're going to essentially bug out for now. When we come back to validation, we'll play with that, okay? But for now, we're going to just deal with that one error. Right? If it's 302, if it's found, what are we going to do? Student already exists. Else, something else happened. So we're gonna, oops, forgot. We need to actually, this is the place. Sorry, we actually need to set that SID. Already exists equals true. So we alerts the user. Note no navigation happens here. Else something else went wrong. We're gonna bug out because we don't know what to do, but we're not gonna stay in a form page if there's a weird error, right? So we're gonna go automatically to the student list. This will actually simplify. It won't do this for us right now, but it will actually simplify a lot of our navigation needs later on, since we're always bugging out to the same place. Like if an error occurs, we're always going to the student list. It actually simplifies many of our if statements, right? We only have to check for certain logical problems because all other errors are going to send us to, right? All other errors are going to send, so we don't have to check for other problems, right? We're happy with that. Okay, so there is our code for that. And nope, we don't need to check any other errors. Ideally, I would console error it, but it doesn't really matter. It's something happened. We don't care. So let's go ahead and do it to it. You have a question?
Is there like a line of code that will just refresh the page that they're already on? So that way, like, instead of sending them back a page and them having to re-click.
Oh, you're missing something here. It's not actually sending them anywhere. Right? So to navigate the page, the student list just takes the page, the student list you already created, it goes and gets a new student list because it needs to, right? But the page has already been loaded. It's already there. You're just, that's why it's so, it looks so fast. That's why it's happening. Now, with the console error, the 302, the page just updates automatically with that student error, as we'll see in just a second. Now, this requires me to have a little bit of forethought, so I apologize. I am a little, whenever I'm in a rush, I always becomes very hard to like critically think, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a student. Did I kill our page? I'm not sure what just happened here. Okay, so yeah, not Sure. So I'm gonna, if you ever, oh, here we go. Okay. That's the weirdest thing I ever saw. Okay, so a couple things that could happen that could cause that. I haven't experienced that in a while. If your component list is, if your HTML template is screwed up, it will not be happy with the page. But usually if there's a major problem with it, it points it out, right? In this case, we're actually not pointing anything out. Because remember, on submit only happens if you submit. So did I not saving anything again? That would be so bad. No, everything's saved. What are we missing? Are we missing a, yep, son of a bitch. This is not compiling. Because, wait till you see this shit. And yes, it took my eyeball to see it. Yes.
Is there a reason why that's
The brackets are mismatched, huh? Sorry?
Is there a reason why that's subscribed?
Yeah, it says it's deprecated usually. That's usually what it means. Use an observer argument. But that's much more difficult. Just use a subscribe until they don't let us do it anymore. I'm going to keep doing it. So I have a mismatch bracket. I don't know if you can tell. So that is the problem. We also forgot this guy. And what is you? Yeah, I don't care about that. All right, let's go ahead and select all. And one thing we can't do very easily is format a document. But that probably should not have caused the problem. So let's see if it did. Gonna be all day. Yay! And it's also not presenting an actual problem. Oh, actually it is. Ha. Set attribute on, oh, there you go. Now we have an actual problem to deal with. All right. Yay. So that was weird. It was just in a weird place. Okay. So my component HTML added the ngIf. Add the ngIf. Did I do the ngIf weird? No, right? Saying it doesn't like it. Ah, holy shit. See what happens when you're in a hurry? That's not a usual ever for me. I usually don't do that. I usually forget less than, greater than, and then I forget equal signs a lot. Sometimes I'll put colons instead of equal signs because I'm going too fast. That's not a usual error for me. But as you can see, it didn't actually. There we go. Ta-da. Can't bind to ngIf since it isn't a known property of div. Wait, so I can't use div to put the. Oh, fuck you. All right. I gotta use something other than div. No, I'm sticking with it because it showed up, right? It showed, come on. It showed up. Yes? So let's go ahead and add one. No, let's add a simpler number. Sorry, that was the purpose of this. 4, 5.
There's no student ID in there now.
because it didn't show up. Oh, so how did I do this in the? Okay, so we won't do it this way. It will be right. You know, jerk. Gotcha. I gotcha. Span. Span. All right. So this is what I actually had in the notes. I was trying to get fancy. It doesn't like SID being used for whatever reason. Don't care right now. But this, or according to my notes. Yay. Whatever. Hell, it isn't using known copy of span. Friend. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I'm a little bit confused because A, this is not usually a problem. Number one, as the Angular component as the ngFn to verify as a part of an ng module, the component is declared. Or we can add the no error schema to the ng module schema of this component. Let's see, I'm gonna guesstimate. Nope. All right. So it doesn't like my ngF. However, I did it the other day, right? With student detail. No? No, student list, right? It was fine in TD. That's your caveat. Student list component have any other issues with that? No, it did not. Okay, so I don't want to put this in a table just so I can add that error. I really don't really care that much. But I am going to go see what I can do about this problem quickly. Because and what is it, div? Burp. This is stupid because I normally do this. This is not like what you call it. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I am using ngF. That is literally what I'm doing. Literally. Look at this. I'm literally using ngF just the same way. No, I am not. Oh, you son of a. Don't you love it? All right, so what do we got? I can't read that. Add student components. Yeah, son of a bitch. Okay, so going too fast again. There we go. So this is a learning estimate of what you could do when you fuck up. So what did you do? Well, I Googled the problem. I got specific, right, with the actual error message, number one. I'm going to take a side to do this. Number one, I got a little error message. But number two, slow it down, right? I know you want to do your homework so you can get back to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, right? Or whatever game that you happen to be playing. But slow the hell down, because ultimately you're creating your own mistakes that you have to fix. Yeah. So it's 5 ones, I believe, in this particular thing, right? Throw Michael Ruth in there. And major is going to be computer science, and my GPA is a 3.0. And add a student, and voila. The reason why I added a student to make sure it worked wasn't really for that. It's because it's really hard to remember. Indiana Jones, and he's a history major, but we'll say he's computer science, and we'll give him a 2.0. And click add student. The page is not reload. This I want to make clear, right? So Nathan asked me a minute ago, can I do it without making the page reload? Page isn't reloading. It's literally JavaScript is literally rewriting it. That's pretty cool, no? What?
Can you have something pop up and disappear if an error occurs?
Yes, but what should we not do?
Complicate things.
No, so you don't want to do too many pop-ups. We will do a pop-up. I'll show you how to do one, but we generally want to avoid that, because I shit you not, the typical mechanism for a form is usually not a pop-up like what we did with the JavaScript validation. Instead, it's actually just making the title. You see how it says SID error exists. It tells you what the error is in the place where you ask for it. That is the common way to do it. But yes, I believe we can do an alert box.
No, well, even like simpler than an alert, like just have like a picture pop up and then disappear without them having to click anything.
Yeah, this is essentially alert.
I guess.
That is the mechanism. So like J option dialog in Java, that's the alert mechanism, is that dialog process in JavaScript. So it's a pop-up window, whether you wanted to show an image, you wanted to show somebody's middle finger, or even a double banger. You got to throw in both middle fingers. It really doesn't matter. It's all just alert. But yes, you can do that. We'll show you how to write JavaScript code and insert in there. I just don't like it. So it's pretty easy to do, though. I think I'm going to just, I don't have a script for this, but you got to do it in the component. You can't do it in the thing, but I think you just say alert, and you add a message. You suck. It's one of my friends' greetings when we were kids. He used to greet me by saying, "You suck." Not that that was my name, but it might as well have been. But anyway, so I used to smoke, and I took him in the store one time. We were going somewhere, and I pulled into a convenience store, and I walked him up to the counter, and he didn't realize what I was doing. So I was just saying, I got to go buy something. I said, and this is where you buy cigarettes. They sell them. You give them money, and they'll give you whatever kind of cigarettes you like, and you can stop asking. Broke ass. I did actually buy cigarettes, but yeah. And then the guy, another friend of mine, helped me move. There you go. A friend of mine helped me move, and he bummed cigarettes off of me so often. I always had a job, IT guy. I did IT computer work, so I was never the broke kid. But at least when I started working. But this guy was helping me move, and it's just an epic bump, right? Like, can I have money for Coke? Can I have money for a cigarette? Can you give me a cigarette? Whatever. So I just, we were moving, and I didn't want to bother, so I got him a pack of his own cigarettes, so he can leave me the fuck alone, right? On the way back we're hanging out at the apartment I moved into, and he's like, "So you got a cigarette?" I was like, "That was in the pack of matches." I left him in the truck. Seriously, I was about to murder somebody at my new apartment. I did not, though. All right. So yes, that is JavaScript code. Okay. So we talk about the Angular TypeScript thing, right? Sure. But you can just write JavaScript code in that at will. Do you want to get complicated? No. In fact, you should keep it very, very simple. Do you want an alert box? If you want an alert box, have at it. But I'm going to tell you a secret. With a template-driven form, we can do 99% of the things we're going to do with the error messages and so forth in the validation stream. And what does that actually mean? That simply means we're going to be able to tell that the student ID had an error and what that error is because of our validation error message problems we had. We'll be able to tell. Yes? Ta-da! And so we don't need to do anything complicated, because if we had to figure out the component, we actually then have to write code like we did with the JavaScript to figure out what went wrong. Let's use Angular to do some of the legwork for us. Requires a bit more cognitive, right? You need to know more about things and how they work, but pretty cool. All right, I have bad news, right? You ready? We got 15 minutes. We're gonna do edit in 15 minutes. Good news, bad news. It's basically the same freaking thing. I'm just gonna copy and paste from two places. In edit, we're gonna have a student ID. So the same thing can occur, right? If you give an edit page to somebody that doesn't have a correct SID, what happens? Can't do anything, bug out, right? Student doesn't exist. So the exact stuff that we're gonna have for student detail, we need for student edit. Okay? The exact stuff we had for add student, we need for edit student. The difference is we have a different error message because SID already exists is not going to be possible. We'll talk about that, because what we can do is just essentially disable a form element, and so it displays it, but doesn't let you actually edit it. Why do we want to do that? SIDs, once created, should remain static. We should allow you to edit anything but the SID. In fact, that's what we do on the server side, so why don't we do the same on the compliance side, right? Okay, so some couple minor changes, but this will go much quicker than you think it will. All right, so the first thing I want to do is nothing to do with add student. Nothing. Don't do that first. Do that last. Okay. What I can do really quickly, and I mean really quickly, is grab student detail. Copy and paste, right? You'll like copy and paste. No, I don't get tired of making fun of y'all. No, I do not. Sorry, am I supposed to get tired? I'm sorry. All right, here's something cool. So everything I need here, right? Everything you need here is going to be the same. So I can do this. It's Control Shift. I hate this freaking keyboard. End. Right? I just copy from that point on, and I go to edit student component, and I click here, and I go Control Student End, and I go a pasty. Right? And then it goes R. You got R. That's not. Come on, scroll up, dude. This doesn't work, and that doesn't work. Why not? It's almost easier to type these things out first, right? Arg. I'm sorry. I'm having fun with that, right? I miss Talk Like a Pirate Day, so we're making up. We're making up for it now. Okay, and so copy, copy, paste, copy, copy, paste, and we're sitting on, and then we're saving it, right? We're gonna check, right? That's a lot of code, so make sure you keep checking, right? But what essentially I did, I cloned the student detail service, right? I need to add the route. We didn't do that yet, but I just cloned the student detail service. That's actually very important that I did that, because we're gonna actually do this step by step. So App writing module. Clone, 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 clone. And so we're going to add edit student. Ta-da. Now, as I save it, it may not be automatically. Okay. I think something's wrong with this, but I don't know. It already added the edit student, so it did it by default for me. Okay. Feel like something's missing, but whatever. We're in a good place. All right. Now, I'm not going to add the link for it yet because I'm trying to go quickly. And now we only have 10 minutes. So, what do we say? 1111. Right? We have an issue. We have 2 error messages, 3 error messages. Oh, this was a routing error, not a what you call it. So every now and again, like when you make a change to the whole system. Oh, because I literally tried to copy it in there. The hell? It doesn't like anything that I'm typing. So when you do make changes to the global system, it's saying that, did I not save it? I think I saved them all. Okay. I didn't create an error. Nope, copied the right thing. Okay. And so we're just going to go. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I'm an idiot. Did you see it? Yep, sure did. Which would cause an error. And then, all right, so here's my student. What's call it? Now comes the not fun part. Yes. We have to actually put them together. So there's a little bit of pain, but not like a lot. So what we're going to try to do, and unfortunately I don't have a mouse, and this is going to get ugly quickly. We look at the add student component. At the very beginning of it, we have an SID already exists, and we have a student. We do not have an SID already exists problem, so we don't need to worry about that, but we need a student. And if you look though, we have a student. We don't need to do anything special there because we already use a student. We don't really need the SID strength, but I'm going to leave it. There's really no reason to change it. I left it there. I did it so that we could walk our way to it. So I'm not going to change that. But we're going to go ahead and get the student on the NG init. But we need to add. Sorry, I was brain farting just a second ago. We need to add. Yeah, I'm going to add the title service too if it's not already there. I don't know if it's there or not. Oh, I can't do it from there. Go to the end here. And I'm just going to change this somewhere inside. Oops. I'm going to copy this and place this anywhere inside this method. Think. All right. Yay. We don't have this error, but I'm leaving it for now because we're kind of going very, very quickly at this point. I'm going to make some quick fixes because I screwed that up. We don't need to do this. I'm gonna do this though, just in case. Should not happen, right? Yeah, okay. So let me think. Yeah, we're good. All right. Now I want to go to the add student component page. Now I have to do some trickeration, but you're gonna love this trickeration. So all I'm doing is wiping out the detail student page. Yes, and I copy the add student page. So what trickeration do we need to add? Not a lot. This is the sad news here. Some days, I swear to God. All right, I'm just going to click edit student. And edit student. There's really no big changes. One thing I do want to do, but I got to trick the system. Otherwise, it's really bad. I need to leave the model there. Okay, but this is where things get a little crazy. So I need to leave the model here. But if I go, if I disable it, I think it comes into a problem where it doesn't submit it. We're going to see that really quickly because we're actually finished. This is 100% of what we're going to do, right? And you're like, wait a second, what do you mean? Don't you have to tie the model to the thing? That's what we did in the add student. I just now copied it. Wait, what? Yeah, it ties the model to it. And if I make a change here, it's unfortunately it's going to go to add student, which we haven't fixed that yet. I didn't create the endpoint, which I might have to do at the beginning of next class. No, I can do it real quick. Let's take 2 seconds. Student service, student service. Okay, so edit student. And you're like, wait a second, should it be harder than that? I'll make it harder than this if you want me to make it harder. Just trying to get a smile, right? Trying to get a smile there. But yeah, that's basically it. So the edit student component, we need to change this to edit student. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I'm going to quickly try to just show you real quick. I may actually just fix this offline because it's not going to work immediately, but I want to show you something. So with the student controller, when you have a put, right? So if it exists by XID, it updates it, returns HTTP status, okay. Otherwise, it returns not found. If it returns anything other than okay, we don't want to be here. But we already checked to see, remember, we already checked to see if the ID, exists. So as long as you provide a way for this not to be editable, right? If that's not editable, then it can't be edited, then it's fine. It shows up and then it can't change. So let's change this to 3.8. Click edit student. And wait, where's Michael Root? And there you go, 3.8. I am not allowing you to change the ID, so that error can never occur, right? So the SID error can no longer occur. And essentially we have a working edit. All right, so I want to talk briefly about some other stuff that's important. We just didn't get to. If any error occurs, I just want to because it doesn't matter. If it's okay, it's going to navigate. If there's an error, we're not dealing with it anyway. So that's the thought process you need to go into. Okay, a couple of things I just want to make sure you're aware of. I was going to start the class off with this, but remember I said if you didn't have maintained a B average in the class, I was going to make it come to class. That's going to start very soon, so you're going to get an email today or tomorrow saying, hey, it's time you start coming to class because your GPA is not high enough. Second thing is the project design reviews were kind of not great, but many of you are on the right track. I think with a very minimal amount of coaching, you'll be well on your way. But homework 1 and homework 2, part of homework 2 should be kind of looking like it's getting close to done by the first progress review. So just to give you an idea. And I can use that because homeworks 1, 2, and 3, and 4 are essentially part of your project. So when I say you should have homework 1, what do we mean? We need data, and we need to put data in the table. For 2, we need to have that spring endpoints, right? And so forth. And then obviously we wrap up with 4. Okay. Everything you're going to get an email about. If you're missing things, let me know. But if I asked you for something and you don't give it to me, I am going to keep it being a 0 until you give it to me. So that's a big percentage of your grades that are missing out. 4 of you didn't submit a project design review at all. Yay! So you can calculate it, by the way, if you wanted to know. So calculate, just throwing this out there, is something you can do. Your project is worth 60% of your final grade. So if you multiply that times the 15% for the project design review, you were giving up 9 points on your final grade by not doing it. So please make sure you do it. All right. Any other questions? You're going to need to email me. I'm sorry I came a little late. It was I walked in from the bus essentially. I promise I will try to get here soon. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great day.